testing.
Yeah.
And yeah, perfect.
Okay.
Good. Okay. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for coming over. So this is Karen and Suzanne's group, Soul Solution, but Suzanne is still on holiday, so I'll be the co-host for tonight. As you probably all know, but I'll still repeat it anyway, this group was put together, just at the beginning of lockdown for therapists to be able to stay in touch and, be able to share what they do. And it's been going strong ever since. So tonight, our speaker is our wonderful Karen. And do I really need to introduce you? Not really. I'm not really sure what you're going to talk about tonight. Actually, it's on the notes. But I'm looking forward to the talk and to the exercises. So the floor is yours.
Lovely. Thank you, Val. Lovely introduction. So I'm going to share my screen. Welcome, everyone. I think, you all know who I am. So as Val said, let me just get into speaker presentation. There we go. Okay. So I think you all know what I do, but for those who don't, I've been a practitioner since about 2001, and many modalities, energy modalities mainly, but also healing modalities. And I work with clients, also do workshops, and obviously run this group as well with Suzanne. So tonight I'm talking about managing and navigating emotion, tools for resilience and acceptance. So, and there'll be plenty of interactive stuff going on. We're going to do some exercise and stuff. Really, there's only a few slides just to sort of think about emotion and what it means to you and how you experience them, how you feel about having certain emotions. So emotions are neither good or bad. I think we are taught at a very young age that certain emotions are good and certain emotions are bad, and it depends on your family. I find that some families are very much, we don't do certain emotions, like we don't do anger. Anger is not a good emotion. And the thing is with saying things like that is we learn at a young age that we have to stifle and suppress anger. And anger of itself is not an issue. It's how we express anger, and we're not taught that. We can be taught just to shove it down. It's not acceptable. Equally, there may be families who don't accept crying, so it's like, oh, don't cry, you're a baby, or if it's a boy, oh, only girls cry, and things like that. Again, not helpful, because it gets suppressed and it will get stuffed down inside. My feeling is there is no good or bad emotions. Why would we have all these emotions if they were good or bad? They're just measures of where we're at. They're just gauges of where we're at. And actually, crying is a release. And anger equally is a release. And I don't suggest going around punching people, but you can express anger in a more positive way. And actually, anger can be very motivating. So I really don't believe there is good or bad. They're just emotions. We label them. So they're labels. That's what they are. They are labels. And let's face it, when we're young, we don't actually know what emotions are anyway. So we just feel something and someone says to us, oh, you're feeling sad. And we don't even know them. So we're very young. We don't know what that means. But then someone says it again, oh, you're feeling sad. And you begin to associate, oh, this is sad. This is sadness. Or, you're being angry. Don't be angry. Oh, that's anger. So we begin to associate with these labels around emotions, and we don't all feel them the same. So one person's joy is not another person's. One person's anger isn't another person's. But we like to put these labels on them, and teach the positive emotions, if you like, which comes with a lot of pressure, I think, to be happy all the time, be joyful all the time, be positive all the time. But why would we have all these emotions if that was where we were always supposed to be? It's emotional bypassing. We are supposed to feel these emotions, And when we feel the emotions that are more challenging, it makes the easier emotions like joy and happiness even better. It highlights them. So if we didn't feel those other emotions, how would we know? How would we feel it? We wouldn't know, because we haven't had that range of emotions. And this is how I feel it goes. It's sort of a wave of emotions. And when we allow them to be, it's much, much easier, rather than fighting them, which is what we're taught to do or suppress. So emotions live in our bodies. So we may have thoughts that go on, but the emotion actually lives in our body. So you may identify with, when you feel fearful, you may get butterflies in your stomach. When you feel upset, maybe you get a tight chest. They live in our emotion, in our bodies. So we have a thought, it relates into our body, and we get a signal that tells us, and then we know we are feeling that emotion. It's a trigger into our bodies. And if you've had a lot of trauma, which I will talk about later on, but if you've had a lot of trauma, then there's always triggers in our body that tell us that we're feeling certain emotions. Emotions are gauges, they're alarm systems. That's what they are. So again, going back to anxiety, it's an alarm system. It's saying you need to pay attention. Something's going on here. Something's not right. You're not safe. Sometimes we get it wrong. So we've got a trigger that goes off, and because we've triggered it so many times, our nervous system is so on edge that it gets triggered so quickly that it's exaggerated. It's this exaggerated emotion that comes up far too often, because the button's been pressed so often. Yeah, it's like a shortcut to the alarm systems. So it can play tricks on us that we think, oh, this is a reason to be alarmed, to be anxious, but it might not be. That's usually when the nervous system is too close to the surface. I tend to use the analogy of a golfer. So golfers, yeah, so a lot of golfers are corporate men. I'm sure there's women who play as well, but I tend to think a lot of them are men. So they go to work, they've probably got, some of these guys have got high-powered jobs, they're stressful all day, and they think, oh, I can't wait to get to the golf course. And they get to the golf course and they think, oh, it's going to be so relaxing. But then they miss a shot and they get angry and wrap their club around a tree. Why? Because that anger's still there going around. Yeah, it's not gone away. It's like a wine glass inside. And because suddenly you're playing this game against yourself, I'd like to add, that's what golf is. You're playing yourself. It tips over, yeah, because you've had that stress all day and it's not gone away. Yeah, and because at this moment you're feeling like you're more relaxed, it's easier to spill out. You've sort of suppressed it all day, and then it tips. Yeah, so it's just a way of thinking about it. Okay, let's go to the next one. So, okay, so emotional stagnation. So as I said, emotions are all relevant, all useful. And when we have the range of emotions, it's really good for us, because we grow resilient. When we get emotional stagnation, it's an emotion that's become so stuck in our body that, as I talked about the trigger before, it triggers so often because it's stuck in a part of our body. Now, panic attacks are a good analogy for that. So people with panic attacks, they will have usually anxiety. And when the anxiety triggers, the emotional stagnation has been there the whole time. It's not shifted. It's just stuck in their bodies, and they get palpitations and sweaty hands and short of breath. All of that is emotional stagnation, because it's not been allowed to go. It's been stuck in their body, just waiting to be triggered again. So that's when emotions aren't useful, because it's stagnant. Emotions want to move. They want to flow, and we stop them. Yeah. So if you think of it in this way, energy comes into our body. Yeah. And if we allow it to flow through our body and we just experience the emotions and we let them go, everything's fine. What happens? Emotion comes into our body, we go, oh, like this, and we hold on to it. We stop it. And energy doesn't want to stop. So we stagnate it in our bodies. And that's when we get stronger and stronger symptoms. And like I said, can end up with panic attacks or things like that. So we are not our emotions. You know, I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm just an angry person," or "I'm just a sad person." Well, no, you're not. You're somebody experiencing anger. We're not defined by our emotions, and when we do that, we fall short. We experience it, and when we experience it, and we know we just experience it again, it's easier to let go of. Yeah. So if you've got an emotion coming and it's uncomfortable, just tell yourself, I'm experiencing this anger. It doesn't feel comfortable right now, but I am just experiencing it. It's not who I am. It doesn't define me. So letting go of fear of emotions. I do think there's a lot of fear of emotions. Again, we're taught to be scared of emotions. We're taught that they are, they're not good. So when you get fearful of an emotion, it's usually because we think something is going to happen, something bad is going to happen, and we get fearful of these certain emotions. But what if something good's going to happen? If we've had triggers in the past and it's been about something bad, we automatically go to that. Something bad's going to happen, and that feeling is coming up in your body, and we associate it as bad. It's fearful. Feeling this isn't good. Avoid at all costs. That's what tends to happen. Avoid the pain. But we actually cause ourselves that suffering by feeling fearful of the emotions. It's a sort of a catch-22. And a lot of people, I talk about dragon states. So some people are angry that they're angry, or really sad that they're sad. It becomes a really big thing. Like I say, I call a dragon state. So being more accepting of your emotions allows you to experience them in an easier way. And rather than having these massive spikes like this, you're going to feel more of a flow. Again, it's always about this flow. It's always about allowing things to flow. So along with the fear of emotions comes judgment and criticism. So we tend to judge and criticize ourselves for feeling certain emotions. Again, it goes back to we shouldn't be feeling it. We shouldn't be feeling sad. We shouldn't be feeling angry. We shouldn't be feeling jealous, or whatever it is. It's important to accept every emotion we feel. Accepting doesn't mean that we're going to keep it. It means actually it's easier to let go of. When we don't accept it, it's more likely to stay because we're resisting, and whatever we resist persists. So accepting the emotion, accepting it there, not judging yourself for it or being critical of yourself, just allowing it to happen, allowing it to be there, allowing it to pass is a far easier way of doing things, being easy on yourself. And we all have inner dialogue, don't we? We all say, oh, I'm such a bad person because I'm so angry, or I'm not a great person because I'm always sad, or I'm jealous of someone. Actually, what if you could just sit there and go, okay, right now I'm just feeling sad. Just feeling sad. That's okay. It's an experience. That's all it is. I don't need to put meaning to it. I don't need to make stories up about what I'm feeling. I'm just going to experience it. I'm just going to allow it. So that moves on to even more than emotional stagnation is addiction to emotions. I'm sure we all know people, or we may identify ourselves with being addicted to an emotion, in that whatever happens, we go back to that emotion. So someone might say to you, oh yeah, I'm really upset about that. But actually they actually express anger over it. Everything's angry. And again, you go back to something, it's always crying or sadness. So we tend to get addicted to an emotion because it's something we're familiar with. Again, also probably more socially acceptable in their circles. So they keep bringing up that same emotion. But again, you don't get the range of emotions. You don't get the richness of the emotions if you're just triggering back into one emotion. It's about learning to feel safe with emotions, with all emotions. And that can be done when we allow ourselves to have space to feel it. So even though they're uncomfortable, allowing ourselves to sit and say, okay, this is feeling really uncomfortable. I recognize I am experiencing emotional pain right now. It's so uncomfortable. You know, maybe your chest is tight or whatever it is. But I'm going to allow this. I'm going to recognize that I actually feel safe, even though this emotion is challenging and uncomfortable. I feel safe. I'm going to sit with it. I'm going to allow it. Yeah. And the more you do that, again, it builds this resilience that you can work through it, that you don't need to resist it or suppress it, that you can sit and allow it to run through you and allow it to flow. So you're not stagnating it either. You're allowing it to move. So finding ease in our bodies and repairing our nervous system. So the nervous system, again, if you've got an addicted emotion or stagnation, then the nervous system is on constant alert. You all know about fight, flight, or freeze. And with that, you're on constant alert. And the nervous system doesn't repair. It's constantly being triggered. Again, it's a shortcut to the nervous system being overloaded by cortisol. And the thing is with cortisol is, if you go back to when fight, flight, or freeze, I say it wasn't really invented, but when we were in caveman times, what would happen is we'd run. Yeah, so all that energy would go into our legs and our lungs to run away, and then we'd get away from the saber-toothed tiger or whatever the real fear was, and we'd sit in our cave and we'd put the stone up, we'd sit down and we'd take a deep breath. And our whole biology would go, oh, okay, it's time to relax now, that's fine. You're safe now. We don't do that in the 21st century. So the least little things set us off. Our saber-toothed tigers are the car broke down, the computer doesn't work, I'm late for an appointment. And these things trigger. We've become so used to the triggers happening so frequently that our nervous system can be very on edge and just ready to flip. Yeah, so it's about learning to find ease in our bodies, which can take time. We're going to do some exercises, so it will help you to work with that. Okay, so trauma, our body does remember it. So if you've had a traumatic incident, I am sure that if you recall it, firstly, you'll probably see, hear, notice things happening. If you recall it, it'll be like a little movie, but you will feel it in your body. It's living. You will know where it lives in your body. And that's what trauma does. It lives in your body. So it's a really good thing to be able to release that trauma, to neutralize it. And there are lots of energy modalities you can use for that. One I use a lot is EFT. Also use something called Psych K. And there are others that you can use to neutralize the trauma. So you're never going to forget what happened. So let's say a car crash. Now, you're never going to forget what happens, but you can neutralize it so that when you remember it, you're not attached to it anymore. When a trauma like that happens, we're attached to it. It's like it happened yesterday. Yeah. And if it's a real, what I call a big T rather than a little t, then it will be in multicolor. You'll hear all the sounds and the feelings. It's like you're still in that crash because it's not been processed and released. It's sitting in your energy system, and it's running those emotions. So thoughts are suggestions that lead to emotion. Now, we're very good at making up stories about stuff. Yeah, so we have a thought, and as human beings, we decide we have to react to that thought. So we have a thought and we go, oh my God, that's terrible. Oh, what if that happens? What if this happens? Oh my God, that's awful. What if this happens? And we talk ourselves into this story that probably will never happen. But because we've done that, it leads to emotions in our bodies again, because we've made suggestions to our body that this is a terrible thing. Whatever it is, we make meaning. But we don't have to react. We can respond. And I talk a lot to my clients about being the captain of your ship. So you have your ship and you have a lookout. Now, the lookout's job is simply to look for trouble. Okay, so the lookout is at the front of your ship and he's looking for trouble, and he sees a boat in the distance, and he runs to the captain and says, "Captain, captain, there's a boat, there's a boat." Okay, so the captain steps back and says, thank you for that message. And he gets his telescope out and he looks and he says, "It's okay, they're friends, it's fine. Now, you are the captain." Okay, the lookout is your nervous system. So managing you is your captain, stepping back and saying, okay, I've heard the message. Do I need to respond to this? Do I need to react? And when you think like that, you can step back and decide. But a lot of the time we just react to the lookout rather than stepping back and saying, well, hang on, I'm managing this, I'm navigating this. Do I need to respond to it? So being able to step back is always a good thing, and recognizing that you are not the nervous system, you are not the adrenaline, you are navigating and managing you. Okay, so breaking habits. A good one is what if. I love what if, because most of the time we tell ourselves stories over and over again, and they run the same way and we don't question them, and they're habitual, so they just run and keep running. But if we say, well, what if it's an opportunity? Suddenly our mind goes, what? Because it's not used to that. You've interrupted it. It's used to going this spiral and round and round. And it goes, hang on, oh, okay. Yeah, what would that mean? So actually questioning yourself when something happens that would normally lead you to anxiety or stress or whatever emotion that becomes really uncomfortable, ask yourself, what if this doesn't mean that? What if it could mean something else? What if this is the best thing that's ever happened to me? All those questions allow your mind to go somewhere else, because our minds are very directive. If we direct them in the right way, they can go and find a different answer. So what if is a great one. I love what if. Emotions are fleeting, and we're not defined by one element. So emotions are transitional. They do move on. Always remember, when you're if you're sitting in an emotion and experiencing it, it's going to pass. It's okay. This will pass. Everything does. So again, sitting and saying, even though this is uncomfortable, I am safe in this place, in this moment right now, and it's going to pass. It's okay. Ride the experience. Totally. I like the analogy of a surfer. So when the surfer is before he catches his wave, he's doing quite a bit of work. Yeah, it's a bit trying, it's a bit challenging, because he's at the bottom where the tougher emotions are, the tougher stuff. But once he gets really up on that wave, he's riding the wave. And why is he riding the wave? Because he's already done the groundwork, he's already done all the work. So if we didn't go through some form of adversity, if we weren't challenged, we wouldn't know how to enjoy the joy when it comes. Anyone can ride the crest of the wave, but the groundwork, the beginning bit, is important too. So recognizing that. Fear and excitement. Well, fear and excitement are so close to each other. Yeah. So if you think about an adrenaline junkie jumping out of a plane, there would be butterflies in the stomach. There would probably be a fast heart rate, but they would define it as excitement, and they want that excitement, whereas somebody who tends to be more in fear and anxiety would call it fear. So what if you could say to yourself, I'm feeling excited, instead of I'm feeling fearful? Because again, you're directing your mind. I'm feeling excited. Your mind goes, oh, okay, they're feeling excited. What's going on? This is excitement. Because we've labeled it, remember? So we can decide what we label. There is such a small difference between excitement and fear. It's purely, I think, a label. So try that next time that you feel any fear, go, oh, I think I'm excited about something. And you'll notice that the symptoms are so similar. Notice how you feel. So the 5-second rule. Okay, so when you wake up in the morning, okay, before our cognitive brain starts reacting, there's a little space of time. Now, it's really good to do some mindfulness in that time. which would be put your feet on the floor, feel your legs on the side of the bed, maybe feel your breath. That's all mindfulness, just being with your body, in your body again, rather than completely in your mind. But the 5-second rule is where just that moment before your brain kicks in, you can put some different things in there. So what tends to happen, you wake up and you go, okay, who am I? Oh yeah, and we go back to yesterday. Oh, that happened, this happened. Oh yeah, that means I'm that, and that means that, oh yes, I'm meant to feel this. So before that, when you're about to get out of bed, don't wait until your brain kicks in. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, up. Do some mindfulness or whatever, but before your mind kicks in and tells you who you are, because that was yesterday's story and you might not want yesterday's story. So we're moving into today's story, which is starting afresh. Okay. So aware, allow, observe, accept. So the easiest way, and it takes practice, but I do think once you get used to it, it's a really good way of doing it. When you are experiencing emotion, to grow resilience, become aware of the emotion. Okay, just say to yourself, I am aware I am feeling sad. I am aware of that. And then you tell yourself, I am allowing that sadness. I allow that, because we're not fighting anything. Anything you fight, as I said, if you resist, it persists. I'm allowing it. Now, allowing it doesn't mean you're accepting it, condoning it. You're not judging it at all. You're just allowing it. You're allowing it to be. And we're not denying it, because it is there. Observe it. When we say observe it, it's almost, you're still you, but you're almost stepping back and going, I'm observing this emotion. I'm observing it. I'm observing how it works in my body, how it runs. Again, no stories, no meaning. We're not attaching any meaning to it. We're just observing. And then crucially, we accept it. Because when we accept, it's far easier to allow it to move and to let go. So they're really useful way of navigating emotions. And like I say, it takes practice, but I find it really useful. Heart-led living, we are so much in our heads, and we allow, I think in the 21st century, it's very much, you know, it's very academic, we have to be in our minds. But actually, we have 3 brains, yeah? So mind, heart, stomach. Now, when we're heart-led living, it's a different way. We are leading with love. We are leading with emotion. It's okay to have emotions. It's okay to navigate them. It's okay to allow them. So we're not constantly in our minds and overanalyzing, because that's where we're making up the stories and the meanings. So allowing the heart to lead is a really lovely way to live. Connection, compassion, intention. So connection with ourselves. You know, we're quite often out in the world and we don't take time to connect with us and connect with how we're feeling. And however we're feeling, whatever's coming up, having compassion for that. Yeah, if you think about, I always think about children with these things. Now, you know, a young child connects with themselves, has compassion with themselves, because you see a young child in front of a mirror, for instance. Yeah, what do? They don't look in the mirror and go, oh my God, I'm looking fat today, or oh, look at my face. No, they twirl and look at themselves. They love it. They love themselves. We're born that way. We are born as loving beings. Yeah, we are taught, unfortunately, by programming, to judge ourselves and feel bad about ourselves and you know, pull ourselves apart. So reconnecting to us, like a child, with a childlike curiosity, connecting to ourselves, heart-led, compassion for whatever's happened, whatever mistakes we've made, whatever we've done, whatever behaviors we might not have liked, still having compassion for ourselves and saying, okay, so I made a mistake. Okay, so maybe I overreacted. But you know what? I still love who I am. I still feel good about me. I made a mistake. That's okay. I forgive me. Yeah. And intention, when we have good intention, regardless of what we do, have good intention. If we set our intention, then we're far more likely to connect and have compassion, because we have intention. We recognize our own intention in everything, even if others don't. If we recognize our intention, it helps. Which moves to see and hear yourself. The biggest reason for disconnection is not being seen and heard. But if we don't see and hear ourselves, how do we expect to be seen and heard in the world? How's that going to happen? So we need to see and hear ourselves, and that goes back to connection, compassion, intention. So really listen to yourself, really see yourself, really go back to accepting you. High five. I love high five. There is a lot of research about high five. And if we high five ourselves every day, I know it sounds very American, but I love it. If you high five yourself in the mirror, you actually release dopamine. And there's something around putting your arms up that is celebratory. Yeah, you're celebrating something. So celebrate you. Celebrate yourself in the mirror every morning. High five yourself. And notice how much better you feel about yourself at the beginning of the day. Do it any time of the day, but do it at the beginning of the day. This is a really good time to do it. Okay, so those are my details of who I am for those who don't know who I am. So as it says, face-to-face and virtual consultations, free 20-minute phone assessments, bespoke workshops, and these talks. And that's my details. You can always contact me in the group anyway, if you want to contact me. So I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to take you through an exercise. So to help with emotion. Okay, so what I want you to do, well, most of you know I do EFT. Does everyone know what EFT is? Anyone not? We all know what EFT is. Jacqueline doesn't, that's fine. Just follow Jacqueline. And we're going to do a few things. So we're going to do a bit of EFT and we're going to do a bit of other stuff as well. So what I want you to do is to recognize any uncomfortable feelings you might be having, any uncomfortable emotions. Okay. If you haven't got one right now, think of a time when you did have uncomfortable emotions that you weren't dealing with very well. Maybe you were judging yourself or whatever. Recognize where they're living in your body. Okay. So wherever the part of your body where they might be living. Notice if there's a symptom with that, is there sharpness? Is there a tightness? Is there butterflies? Just notice what symptoms might be there. Everyone got that? Okay. So does it have a colour? This feeling inside of your body? Is there a colour to it? Notice if there's a shape and a colour. There may be a shape and colour there. Notice the density of this shape. Everyone got that? Yeah? Okay. So we're going to start to tap. Now, I'm not going to do the usual, what I usually do with EFT, you'll all recognize is I do the karate chop point and the sore spot. We're not going to do that. We're just going to tap. So we're just going to, everyone can just copy. And we're just going to tap. Okay. And we're going to say to this feeling in our body, this emotion, we're going to ask it to soften. Okay. So we're going to say soften. I'm just going to say soften, and you can all say it out loud. I can't hear you, but you can say it. So we're going to say soften to this energy. We're going to say it's only energy. It's all it is. It's only energy. And I'm going to give permission for this energy to soften. Just going to observe this energy in my body. This, whatever the shape is, you can say, this, whatever, I don't know, round, dark, brick density, whatever it is to you. I choose to allow it to soften. I give it full permission now to soften. I'm not going to force it. I'm just giving it permission to soften. It's only energy. and I am aware of it. I allow it. I observe it. And I fully accept it. I acknowledge it. And I thank it for its intention. For it truly had a positive intention for me. And I observe this energy softening. I continue to allow it to do so. And it can take as long as it likes. I just allow it to soften. Because the trauma has passed now. It's safe now to let go. I choose to allow it to soften. And I send a message to every cell of my body that the trauma has passed now. It's safe now to let go. It's safe now to soften. And as I do, I breathe easy. And as it softens, sorry, for anyone who can't see, the one I'm doing down here is where the bra strap is for us girls, whoever doesn't know EFT. So it's under the arm on the bra strap, Jacqueline, and anyone else who doesn't know, sorry. Okay, let's go to the top of the head. I notice this energy softening as every cell of my body is receiving the message that the trauma has passed now. It's safe now. I'm ready to let go. I feel safe enough. And just notice as the energy is softening, just notice it may be changing density. It may be changing color. If it's ready to flow, if it's soft enough to flow, if it's liquid-like, just ask it to flow. Just ask it to begin to flow, because it's just energy. That's all it is. It's just energy, and it really wants to flow. So just allow it to do so. And if it is liquid-like and it is flowing, just observe it. You're not going to force it to do anything. But it will want to leave. So just allow it, just watch it. It knows what it wants to do. So just allow the energy to do what it needs to do. Just allow it to flow. Okay, so how's everyone doing? Have we got softened flowing going on? Is that a yes from most people? Okay, so just allow it to keep flowing. Let me know. We're just gonna give you a little bit more tapping to release it, allow it to leave your bodies, and then we're going to scan our bodies. Okay, so if anyone's has completely left, then they can scan their body to see if there's any residue left of that old emotion that's been stuck there. Yeah, if not, just keep allowing it to flow until it's ready to leave. And it will leave. It wants to leave. It wants to move out and allow flow through your body. Just notice that as that energy is flowing, that there's new flow. That there may be more energized flow going on in your body because the old energy is leaving. Okay, so is everyone at a point where things have flowed and left? I can't see everyone, but I hope everyone has. So, okay, so just scan your body if you haven't already and just check if there's any residue left in there. Okay. And what we're going to do, regardless of whether there's any residue left, because I don't know who has residue and who doesn't, we're going to sit in a position to process the rest of it. So what I'd like you to do is cross your legs at your ankles, whichever way feels comfortable to you. Doesn't matter, left or right, doesn't matter. So just cross them at your ankles, and then take your hands out in front of you, cross them and clasp them together, and then pull them into your body, either up here or on your lap, whatever feels comfortable, whichever way you want to do that. I just want you to take some nice breaths and just allow whatever's processing in your body and in through the whole energy system just to process. This is what we call the whole brain position. So this allows both cortices of your brain to process together, so your left and right. And it's a much better way of processing things, because what we tend to do is use one part. So we either become over analytical about it or we become overly emotional about it. But when we put it together, it balances it all out and allows us to process much more effectively. So just take some breaths. And just enjoy any release you're feeling. Don't put any stories or meanings to whatever's coming up. Just allow it to move through you. Just allow it to pass. It's all transitional. Just enjoy that feeling of letting go, whatever's going through you. Okay. So everyone feeling like energy shifted? Anyone still stuck there? You can come off mute if you're feeling like you're stuck there and tell me. Otherwise, I'm going to assume everyone is at a point. Okay, so the last thing we're going to do is what I call butterfly tapping. So hopefully you can see, you put your hand above each elbow and you bilaterally tap slowly. Now you can put your arms down. You don't have to have them high like me. I'm just showing you, that's all. So you can put them down where they're comfortable. But just slowly bilaterally tap. And I want you to think about the things you really appreciate about yourself with compassion and connection and intention about yourself. Really appreciate something, and it can be the smallest thing, it doesn't matter, but just really focus on what you appreciate about yourself and just gently tap. And what this does is it releases oxytocin, which you may know is the bonding hormone. It's like being hugged by your mother. It's what's released when you breastfeed. So it's a really nice feeling of being, I like it. It feels like I'm being hugged. So just gently tap and just really appreciate yourself. And just imagine receiving that love from whoever, from yourself, from other people. Just receive that love. Really connect to yourself. Okay. Now, I mean, you can do that for as long as you like, but I'm just showing you what to do, how to do that. Okay, so that is everything. I've probably got more to say about emotions because I could probably go on all night, but I will stop there. And I'm open to any questions you might have about what we've been doing or what I do. Yeah, feel free. Val?
It's not really a question, but you know what you said about transforming the fear into excitement?
Yeah.
This is something that I've been implementing, I mean, recently, and it's actually quite, it's very good. And it works, it's just transforming the fear into, oh, actually, this is, that, can be great. And there's something positive because it's around fear, of course. And the fear is, anxiety and everything. And it's not nice, but transforming it into excitement is amazing. So it's a good reminder. And I did not know about the high five thing, the whole
high five myself. Yeah. High five yourself in the mirror. It's great. Something we can adopt from the Americans.
Yes,
But I
yes,
mean, fear is paradoxical, I think, because we have fear of emotions, but then we're stuck in fear. So, sort of stops us from feeling all the other lovely emotions because we're so stuck in fear. So,
yeah. And thank you for all the tapping at the end, because it's something that I know I can do, but I don't always think about doing it. So doing it in a group kind of
yeah.
forces you to do it. So that's really cool. Thank you.
And the great thing about doing it in a group is something called borrowing benefits. So when you do it in a group, even on Zoom, you are helping everybody. So when I do workshops, I quite often will get someone up in front and we're tapping on their issues. Yeah, and everyone's tapping on their issues and everyone is repeating what I'm saying about this person at the front. But guess what? They all feel better, because what I get them to do is write down a sensation in their body and a number, and they go back to it and go, I say, well, how do you feel about that now? How are you feeling? Is that gone? And everyone's goes down, so that's borrowing benefits. We're all helping each other, and that's how energy works. So any other questions from anybody? Yeah.
This one. What
Yes.
was that called?
So this is the whole brain posture. Yeah.
Whole brain posture.
Whole brain posture. So it's something from Psych K that we do in Psych K. And it processes everything through the two cortexes rather than one. And you can just sit and allow something. Again, that's a safe way to sit in an emotion, just sitting in it and allowing it to process and not attaching. That's the crucial bit. Don't attach to the stories. And what I tend to say to people is, imagine all those thoughts are clouds. Okay, now you're not going to pay attention to every cloud that passes by. So, just allow the clouds to pass by. You might see one that's a dragon, great. So you might respond to that, but the rest, you just let them pass. Yeah, you don't have to respond to everything. You don't have to react to everything.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, Sylvia?
Karen, thank you so much for that. That was well timed and well needed for me.
Oh,
that
good.
EFT, that was really good. And what you do, what's the best thing to do if someone knows how to push your buttons and upset you and make you kind of, upset, and if you prone to getting anxious or prone to getting stressed out, and what's if they know how to make you feel like that, what's the best thing for you to do?
Okay, well, EFT, definitely. I would work on that, because to all intents and purposes, it's our stuff, but we're being triggered by somebody's behavior. And it may be that reminds you of something that happened way back, and they're reminding you of that person, or certain behaviors reminding you of that. Another thing I like to do is to imagine that you put a line between you and that person, and you go, okay, so this side is my stuff. I accept that. That side is theirs. So actually their behavior is their stuff. It's not mine. It's not mine. And sometimes just by putting that line between you, you can sit back and go, okay, I don't have to respond to this. And actually, is this actually aimed at me anyway? Because we always think these things are aimed at us, but maybe this person's having a real bad day, and it's about them. And they're hitting out, and actually it's not to do with me at all, but because I've got this trigger, I feel triggered by it. So I'm going to step back and say, okay, it's maybe not to do with me, this is to do with them. There's the line, it's not my responsibility, and I'm going to go and tap. And I'm going to,
and if someone's been gaslighting you, the same thing.
Well, gaslighting again is about them, isn't it? It's about them saying it's you. So it's recognizing, I tend to think that what happens, what we meet outside of us, is a challenge for us to make change to us. It's a learning. This has come. Why has this come? Why has this come? Okay, so I can learn from this. Yeah, this isn't my stuff. There's my line. That's their stuff. So this gaslighting is their stuff. So why do they want to do that to me? Why do they want to behave that way? It says a lot about them. And people who tend to gaslight, there's a lot of insecurity, isn't there? Because if you weren't insecure, you wouldn't need to gaslight somebody. Yeah, so definitely tapping, sitting in the whole brain position. Just to, obviously you might not be able to do it there and then, but you can do it, after, if you're out of the situation. Get yourself out of the situation, go and tap. Yeah. I mean, if you're sitting, to be honest, if you're sitting, this is what I tend to think. If you're sitting and there's a desk in front of you, nobody would actually notice if you had that on your lap and you had your legs crossed. So you could sit there in that posture anyway, and just allow things to wash over you. Yeah.
Thank you, Karen.
You're welcome.
Thank you. That was lovely.
Oh, good. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Excellent. Jacqueline?
That was lovely. Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you, Sylvia, and thank you for that as well.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's lovely. I feel I had a knot or whatever you call it, and that did come looser, and I was able to sort of I don't think I got rid of all of it at that time, but then with the tapping and everything, and that's something I'm going to be doing. Can you stand up or something, Carol, or lower so I can see what it is you are doing with your.
Oh, where I'm tapping?
Yeah, just
So
that one. Down there.
Oh,
okay,
down there.
I didn't do that.
Strap. Sorry, I sort of assumed I should have said.
So is that on both sides? Why were you doing one side all the time and not the other?
Well, you can do both sides if you want. It's up to you. You can actually do, but if you do it both, obviously some aren't both sides, like this one obviously isn't. These,
why? Why couldn't you have done it with the other hand?
You could do it with the other hand, but you can't do a different position.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so you've only got there. Whereas these, you could do these, but if you do both, do it bilaterally.
Oh, so you wouldn't do that one time and that, and then do that.
You can do either side. You can do both sides. It's really flexible.
Okay.
So yeah, I encourage you to explore it. I mean, that wasn't the full EFT experience. That was part of it. So if I was doing EFT with someone, there's another process. So all we did was the tapping points, whereas there is something called the setup. And I also use another point to clear stoppers, things that would stop you from letting go. So that was part of the EFT process, just the tapping points. And they're all the meridian points, which you would recognize, Jacqueline.
Yeah.
And they're the points that are closest to the skin, basically the surface of the skin. So that's why we use them. They're a fixal. So those cover the places that things would be stuck. Yeah. That makes sense.
In the past, I've known a couple of people, not more than that, with cancer. Yeah. And they do a lot of this. What would that be for a physical thing like that?
It can be used for physical things. We're not allowed to say we can cure anything, as you know.
No, I know that.
But yeah, because the thing is with any disease, there is a lot of emotion and belief around that disease.
Yeah.
So you can clear the emotion and belief around it. So if someone's gone to a doctor, for instance, and they've been given a prognosis of cancer, if you can help them to release the belief, it can release the prognosis. Yeah, it can help them to believe, because if you buy into a prognosis, it'd probably be correct. But if you don't, if you allow yourself to believe that there's other opportunities that it can go, that's possible for it to release, then, that helps with that. It helps you to release those beliefs that have stopped you from believing that it can go. Because as we know, all these things can go. We're just
they're moving energy, aren't they? They're moving energy.
Everything's energy. But
and they must have been on a journey to have, got to the stage where that they're doing all of this on themselves.
Yeah. People use it for all sorts of things. I mean, I've used it for pain quite a bit too, because there's always an emotion behind pain, and quite often it can be very metaphorical. So you get a pain in your neck. Well, who's the pain in your neck?
So what if that? I don't. But what if somebody had a pain in their knee or something? Would you be doing this, not not round the gallbladder on the knee or something like that?
I'd be doing the same ones, but we'd be talking. I'd be thinking about what is it about the knee, yeah. So quite often anger's stuck in knees, so I'd be looking at anger probably and trying to unpick, by questioning, what's been going on,
Right.
and
So
unpick
that's
the anger.
that's how your treatment then would then go if somebody. I've just picked a knee at random, but if somebody had that, and they came to you and you knew that, then you would be actually speaking words to find out what was going on.
My job, I always think my job's a bit like a detective. So if I ask the right questions, I usually get somewhere. So there's always stuff. As soon as someone has a symptom, there's stuff. We all have stuff, but as you know, it all starts very etherical, and the densest part is our body. So when something's existed for a long time, it ends up in your body. So really it's been going on for quite a while. So it's about unpicking that and allowing that to start to shift. So I tend to also refer to certain books like Louise Hay and things like that, Deb Shapiro. So if someone comes to me with something and I've not previously worked with it, I'll always look and see what the emotional underlying is with those sort of issues, and then talk to them and see what comes out, and then work in that way. But also on past trauma, because a lot of things are past trauma. We all know that childhood trauma has a lot to do with our beliefs, our diseases, our the way we run our lives. So if we can unpick that and neutralize it. I also do something called matrix re-imprinting, which is a version of EFT, and you actually go back to what we call the echo, and that's the time of the trauma, and you neutralize that so that then sort of has a domino effect through your life, because if you neutralize that first experience, then it lets go of the whole of the beliefs and the way you lived because of that. It sort of unpicks it. So it's another way of working with trauma and everything that's involved with trauma.
Thank you. I think there's lots more I want to know, but I'll have to tap into another time, I think, because things will come to me.
Yeah. That's okay. That's okay. I can always you can always ask me.
I know. Thank you.
You're welcome.
But I'm so glad I heard the others first as well, because, well, it's like when you're in any situation and somebody says something, as you were saying, and go, oh yes, okay, that's me, or I recognize them. That's nice to know. So thank you.
You're welcome. EFT is a great way of navigating and managing emotions. It just, to me, what it does is when you get too much in your head about things, it calms the whole system down until your thinking changes and you naturally allow emotions then to move. Whereas when you're stuck in a situation, you do this with it, and you don't let it go. We get in our own way. Yeah, we think we're doing it for a reason. There's always a positive intention, usually protection or something like that. Especially with anger, I find a lot with anger. People go, well, I can't let it go because if I do, I'm condoning it and I've got to stay angry because it protects me. So unpicking that sometimes takes a bit of time for them to realize the only person that they're affecting is themselves.
Yeah. Bloody nuisance, isn't it? And
sometimes I think we are our own worst enemies.
And another thing. And another thing.
Yeah, we get in our own way, definitely. Yeah, and we self-sabotage and all of that stuff. So yeah, that's why sometimes the detective work helps you to get to the right place, to ask the right questions, to unpick what's happened. The further you can go back, usually the better for those sort of things.
Gosh,
Karen, that's really interesting, and a lot of the things that you were saying and the techniques you use, I can relate to in the work I do. I do shiatsu.
Okay. Yeah.
And I like to talk to people and ask them, about their emotions and where they're feeling it in their body. And
Yeah.
so often people they just are so unaware of their own bodies.
Yeah.
It's like I'm talking a foreign language. So I use the technique like, well, are you feeling a shape? Is it a color? Is it a sound? Things like that.
Yeah.
But I find the beauty about shiatsu is the body doesn't lie. So once I've got
Absolutely.
my hands on them,
Yeah.
and you pick up an arm and this overwhelming sadness comes over me, or somebody will come in with a physical ailment of, I've got this dodgy shoulder, and they'll give me the history of, I've played tennis, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And then maybe over 3 or 4 sessions they'll start to talk about their brother that they're really angry with, and I just
Yeah.
don't get on with him, and da 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 da. And after maybe session 3, they'll say, you know what, actually I phoned my brother last night and actually we're getting along okay. And then I'll say, well, how's the shoulder?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
fine. So
Yeah.
it's incredible how powerful,
It's powerful.
yeah, and how actually the body does want to just keep shifting everything.
It
It
does.
doesn't want to be stuck.
No, it doesn't. I've worked on a frozen shoulder, and that was all about a past relationship and sort of shouldering it literally, and it actually went in a session, which was amazing. And she never looked back. That was it. It was like the relationship had sat there and she just couldn't let it go,
Yeah.
but it went
Yeah.
completely. So yeah, it is amazing how our emotions live in our bodies. And what we do. And that's the thing is, talking about emotions, like I said, there's nothing wrong with emotions. It's just that we hang on to them.
Yeah. And I think there is this fear that people fear that they will be stuck there. They don't believe that actually emotions flow.
No.
And they think that
No,
once
it's
they're in
true.
sadness, they're going to stick there, or once they're in grief, they're stuck there.
Yeah, absolutely. I had someone who said, I don't want to cry because I don't think I'll stop.
Yeah, that's a classic.
And EFT tends quite often makes you cry. So she did.
Yeah,
And
because
amazingly, she stopped. So
well, how
that
about
fear
that?
was dispelled quite quickly, because you do stop. But yeah, a lot of people are so fearful that they're going to get stuck in it, that they get stuck in fear instead.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Do you know the books of Gabor Mate?
I know Gabor Mate. I haven't read his books, but I have watched him quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, he's very much about the kind of the emotion and illness.
Yeah.
The connection between um, trapped and stuck emotions and disease.
Yeah.
To the point of he can almost, or people can almost say, this patient's far too nice. I bet
Yeah.
she's a fibromyalgia sufferer. This sort of thing.
Yeah.
How patterns and emotions actually can develop into disease. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
scary.
Yeah. But
We're very lucky, aren't we, to be at this moment in time with with knowledge that people who've been in the medical system, say, some of them are beginning to blend the two. I remember years ago, I don't know, I might have been a teenager, I must have been aware, and I could never understand why let's say this one that you've got a broken arm, and then somebody else had a trauma and was sort of whatever. I actually remember thinking, why don't I didn't connect a broken arm with a trauma, I'm not saying that, but I couldn't understand why some people went to a psychiatric hospital where they were locked up and all of that.
Yeah.
And I could never understand that. And then other people were accepted. I think that's what I'm trying to say now. And aren't we in a very privileged time now that, I mean, I know none of us are like that, but there is still some of that going on.
There's still a certain stigma, I think, around mental health.
Yeah.
We've still got a way to go, but we're further down the line than we were, and we've got a lot more alternative stuff we can use now. You know, if people just look around rather than immediately going to the doctor and saying I'm depressed.
Yeah.
You know,
That's what I'm trying to say. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
You know, that's a sad thing, because my personal feeling on this is that unless you are really suicidal, at which point obviously, you know, you've got to do something quite quick. If you're just feeling down or whatever, or a bit depressed, then it's better to look for these sort of therapies rather than go down the route of medication. You know, because I've had experience of that, not myself, but with family members, where, you know, it actually made things much, much worse. And it took a long time to get off of them, and it never really did what it was supposed to do. So yeah, I'm an advocate for nipping things in the bud in an energetic way. You know, as once you start feeling like that, if it's really got to that point, then that's the point where you need to work with it and work through it, but recognize that, you know, that you can come through that. It's okay, you can come through it, rather than, you know, just going to the doctors and getting some form of medication, which scares me because they give them out like Smarties.
Yeah.
Well, and I also think with practitioners like we are, and I was always taught, when I was first taught, that the healing starts when they walk through that door and you smile and you say, it's going to be all right, you know, and that is the beginning of healing.
Yeah.
Which you go to, you know, if it's not like, they go, well, I'm sorry, but, you know, you're going to have your arm chopped off at the end, you know, it's not going to get better. There's a difference, isn't there?
Yeah. Yeah.
That is healing. We're healers just from that small amount of thing for that poor person that's found us at that moment in their life.
Yeah. It's a different way of looking at things, isn't it? You know, allopathic medicine has its place.
Yes.
It's more of a patch it up type thing. So if you've had a car accident, you're going to be very grateful for A&E. But, you know, if it's mental health, then I think it's better to look for some form of therapy that's going to help you learn how to work through it, teach you tools for resilience, you know, and for acceptance. Yeah, that's so important.
Yeah, what was going through my mind was this thing about actually the person being heard and seen.
Exactly.
Oh God, yeah.
In there, and actually they know that it's safe to be in that mix of emotions and in that chaos, and they're not going to be judged. There is something about that, allowing their self to be seen and heard.
It's giving them a safe space, isn't it? That's what I think, you know, giving them a safe space. And again, it goes back to teaching them to see and hear themselves first.
Yeah.
No one else is going to see or hear you unless you see or hear yourself. It's the same as acceptance. You know, no one else is going to accept you if you don't accept you. And if you feel you're not important, for instance, then you're going to be ignored. Yeah, it just reflects out because we reflect that out unconsciously. No one does that consciously. No one wants that. But when we know that, far from feeling like, you know, bad about that, you can go, wow, I can do that. I'm really powerful. That means I can change it. You know, so if I see and hear myself and I feel that I'm just as important as everyone else, guess what? Other people are going to think that too. So, you know, that's the journey, isn't it? It's being able to appreciate yourself first. And, you know, my journey's been a long one. I'm sure all of us here have. I think, well, most of us come to therapy because of our own stuff, you know, and if I go back, you know, 20, 30 years, I wouldn't really want to go back there because there was no acceptance back there. You know, it was all judgment and criticism and, you know, not being seen and heard. But once you move past that and you really see and hear yourself and appreciate who you are, you connect to you, it changes everything. You know, just having that relationship with yourself changes everything. And I'm very grateful for that. I'm very grateful for what I've learned for myself. And then you share it. That's what's important. What's the point in keeping it to yourself? You've got to share it. You know, you want
I'm very
everyone else to
grateful
experience
for
it.
having been ill and having the journey. And I've heard so many other people say the same thing, and usually ended up as therapists after it anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
Exactly.
wonderful.
And I always think with therapists is because we've been there, we're then
We know.
relatable.
Yeah, we know.
You know, because if a therapist has never experienced any of that stuff, how can you can't relate as well to people. But I always think you can relate to people because you've experienced some form of trauma. It might not be exactly the same as your clients, but you've experienced it, so you can relate, and that's how it works. And then you share.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure. Thank you everyone for coming. Really appreciate it.
Can I just quickly ask a question? Sorry.
Yeah, of course. Go ahead, Sue.
What it was, it's you were doing the first exercise where you did the this bit.
Oh yeah.
And then you were crossing your legs. When you did the hug, do you still cross your legs?
I know, so I should have said that, but no, I mean you can, doesn't matter.
Yeah, but it's not.
No. So that's the whole brain position, the crossing legs and the hands.
Yes.
The butterfly tapping is just a separate thing. Yeah. So
good, thank you.
so whenever you want to feel hugged.
I'd have been all crossed if Sue hadn't have told me that. Everything had been crossed.
Yeah, cross arms and cross legs.
I mean, you can. It's not going to hurt you, but you don't have to.
That's easier, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
Lovely,
You're
Karen. Thank you very much. Really
welcome.
interesting.
Thank you all for coming.
Yeah,
Really
yeah.
appreciate it. And in 2 weeks, I believe Suzanne is going to do a talk. I'm not sure what about as yet. I won't be here because I'm away. So yeah, she'll be here. She will advertise it in the group. And I wonder whether Val might be back as co-host.
I was thinking that I might be back, and I might add that, the floor is yours. I mean, Telegram is all yours, and WhatsApp is all yours for the week to come. You can promote your services and your website and everything, as all the speakers do, because you're the host, but you're also, the speaker of this week. So
yeah, thank you.
Share everything with us.
You share my contact details. Definitely. And we have and actually we could advertise an Earth Wealth workshop coming up for people who live in our area on the 2nd of September. So I might advertise that too if we've got all the words. So yeah, we'll do that. Yeah.
Can I throw something out there and ask a favour, and please say no with pleasure and everything. Karen knows I'm wanting to get on I don't want to get on a platform and show off and do that, but I'm desperately wanting to get my confidence back. And I'm just wondering, in a small group like this, could it be that you could all help me, if Karen and Suzanne think it's an okay thing, by me having a little try and have a talk, which I won't be good at. Oh, I shouldn't be saying that, should I, Karen? No, I'm going to be superb at.
What if I was really good at it?
Is that what I say? What if I say what if? Do I? What if I was really good at it?
Yeah.
Would you be able to, like, we've just been, Karen's done something and we've said, oh, this and that's my experience, and can you explain this and that? I would feel so honoured and relieved if I could do something like that and get that bloody well out the way and have a little practice.
Well, there you go. So Jacqueline will be coming up soon with her talk.
Would you girls try and stick with me for half an hour or so if I tried and
Ingrid
did
said
something?
you would be good at it, as you
I
are
will.
a lovely, lovely person. So there you go. You've got backup already. So
Of
yeah,
course.
we'll put you on the agenda. So Suzanne's next. And
I don't want to be on an agenda that people think I know everything. I want to. It's almost a selfish thing as well for me to. I've got to get out there and practice.
yeah, trust me, everyone. Jacqueline has a wealth of experience, absolute wealth of experience. So yeah, you can definitely do a talk. You can do a talk for us, Jacqueline. No problem.
Just depends if you want to know what it is. But thank you. That I really, I hadn't planned that. It just came to me a few minutes ago.
That's fine.
If it's all right with Suzanne and you.
It would definitely be all right with
Okay,
Suzanne.
I'll
You know that.
Say good night to everybody. Lovely to see
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Coming, Christine. Lovely to see
Bye,
you.
Sue.
Night.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.
everyone.
Okay.
Bye.
so,
Thank you so much.
Yeah, bye.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.